Hello there, and welcome back to Opening Night Trivia. Welcome back to Let's Love Star Wars, our continuing series where we just purely positively talk about that thing we love, Star Wars. With me, as per usual, it is David Garcia, and we got a hell of an episode because
Yep.
today we're talking about um, Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
I
It's episode
mean,
3, motherfucker.
yeah, Revenge of the Sith. But we didn't want to do this alone. We couldn't do this alone. I mean, we probably could have crushed it, but like it's always better with friends. So we invited along friend of the show officially.
Yep.
We brought in Caleb Coho for this one.
Hey,
Hello.
we couldn't talk about Revenge of the Sith without Caleb Coho, who has very vocally expressed his feelings about this movie in the community.
love this one. You guys get to be the first one to show off the purple hair. So
That's right. This
people are gonna be like, "Oh my god, look, he's purple," and it's gonna be like, "Yes." And now you'll see this for 8 months.
Oh, God. Well, this is the Star Wars show, so I guess like first question would be, what really brought you to Star Wars, Mr. Coho?
It's a good question. Star Wars has just always been like a thing, like in my life. Like I can't pinpoint an exact origin point. I do remember very much watching the originals on VHS, a box set that we had. So I remember watching those all the time, and we would like listen to the George Lucas interview up top, and then whoever they talked to at the top, and then just go straight into the movie. I have a very vivid memory of me and a friend watching The Empire Strikes Back, and like watching them with those plastic like lightsabers that extend, and just sitting there with the lightsabers. So I have all of those still, and there's like a box down there probably that still has all the old Star Wars figures I used to collect. But like that was like Star Wars was like huge for me, and I think this is probably the movie that most encapsulates what Star Wars is to me, in a way where it's like this. The prequels were the Star Wars movies that were coming out when I was growing up, so everything I got, everything I like watched, every book I read, every Star Wars piece of content I consumed was prequels. So like to me that was Star Wars, but I think that dismays my dad a little. Because I definitely watched the originals a lot, and I will say the originals are immaculate. But yeah,
all right,
great. We start the show off with the rankings.
Yeah.
I can say, David, you have this lowest of all of us, so why don't you go ahead and start?
I do have this the lowest of all of us, and this is my number 2. So. Yeah.
It's pretty low for me. I'll be honest, I have this at my number 1. Caleb, where would you say that Revenge of the Sith lay?
Tough question. It actually took a while to get to this spot as my number 1 Star Wars movie. It took a while to officially like claim that spot. Because like I wouldn't necessarily say objective quality, this is the best one, but for me it's just like this is the one I will never say no to watching. So it slid into number 1 the more and more I thought about my rankings, and this last watch I just did, it was like, yeah, you're number 1. You have to be.
Yeah. This is the first one that I ever saw of any of the Star Wars movies. This is the first one I ever saw in theaters. And it was a really bizarre experience. I think I've covered it on the show before, but like you go in having never heard of Star Wars and you walk into a theater and you're like, people are dressed up. You sit down and it's like epic fanfare. Like the first thing that happens is a giant space battle. It's like a whole experience.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. David, what is our next segment and why is it the best segment ever?
Well, I do have to do want to say a fun fact about my ranking of this movie, because both of you got to say one and I didn't. So this movie actually also got up for me, especially because since I cried with this movie once, for the 50th time I watched it, once I cried, and I was like, yeah, this probably is like emotionally very heavy in the Star Wars universe, especially if you know everything that's happening and all the Star Wars lore. So I think this movie is very, very important, and yeah, that's why it is my number 2, and it took over A New Hope. So
Suck it, A New Hope.
Now, the people with 14 votes, it's number 14.
People are wrong.
more
People
than
are wrong.
a little less than half the votes than the lead. That's Empire.
The people can suck it. That's right. You at home. If you voted for that, you're wrong.
Well,
I mean, it's time for the best segment. I don't even know why we do all the other segments because we are going back to the John Williams corner. Yeah, I love it. The segment of the show where we each pick a song from the score and talk about how great it is because, well, they're all great. It's John Williams. Like, come on. I guess it would be very responsible and fair to let our guest go first.
Yep.
So, any particular piece of music caught your eye lately?
I mean, you can go on about like Battle of the Heroes for days, but the one that I've always talked about that I like love is Padme's Ruminations. That's my favorite piece. Which for the people who don't like pick out tracks and stuff is the scene where Anakin is up in the Jedi Temple room and Padme is looking out the window and it's just like the vocal chorus of just like the wails and it's my favorite because it's the most off-settling thing you've ever heard in your life. And it goes perfectly with this scene of just two people like looking across, seemingly just looking across this like city and this planet right at each other. I don't know. That scene's always stuck with me. That music, especially, is always stuck with me. There's a lot of pieces, especially across like the prequels, where it's like, oh, I love this piece and this piece and this piece, and they put them all in the Star Wars Battlefront game that I played endlessly, religiously. So I've heard them a billion times, like Battle of the Heroes and all that. But like, that was the one where it was like, yep, that's the one that always locked right here. So
I just want to say that I just gained a lot of respect for Caleb Coho in this very moment. Because I love that music. I love that scene. I love that setting. And I think it marks a change in the movie. That scene, it marks like before and after in Revenge of the Sith and in the Star Wars saga, like in general. That's the moment where Anakin makes the decision because he's thinking about it. He knows what's going to happen. He is literally having an inner conflict. And I think that conflict is shown visually very well with the scenes that you just talked about with Padme. And the fact that he makes the decision of he already knows he's not going to let Mace Windu kill Palpatine when he leaves the Jedi Temple. And that whole that conversation with himself changes the course of the galaxy. And I think that minimalistic music, we have talked a lot about minimalistic music in this show. And I think it's the perfect cherry on top for an already very heavy, I think that's the word, heavy scene.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought you were going to pick Battle of Heroes, and I gained a lot of respect for you, Coho. So, yeah.
Noted that Coho is the only, I think, current musician that we've had on the show. His opinion counts more than most of you's. I mean, you specifically, Joe. You specifically, Joe. Fucking going outside and shit. It's not cool.
Running. What is that?
He's gonna kill me. David, any particular piece of music caught your eye?
Yeah, I chose. I also thought about Battle of Heroes, but I decided to go with the March of the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Because I think we have talked about intimidating music in this show before. And I think that is one of the most intimidating pieces of music of the entire Star Wars saga. That's up there with the Empire March. And it also has a lot of reminiscences. I don't know how to say the word. It reminisces a lot with the Empire March because it's like the drums, I don't know how to talk music in English, but like the low brasses. I think that's how
Yeah.
you say it. I know music, but I don't know how to talk music in English. Um, I think tonally and rhythmically and everything, it is very. It is okay. Anakin is not full Darth Vader yet. There is still a chance for redemption for Anakin, and I think that music encapsulates the middle ground between Anakin Skywalker and the Darth Vader we know that's represented by the Empire March very well. Also, it's cool as fuck and intimidating. If you saw like a clone army coming at you, even if you had a laser sword and then that music started playing, I will run the fuck away. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that piece of music.
Yeah. Also, the piece that plays when you're playing on like, I think it's like 6 or 7 different maps in Battlefront, but specifically Coruscant, they play that piece.
Are you talking about Battlefront Day for PS2, right?
Yeah, PS2.
Yeah. So
1
it's
and
the
2 have the same soundtrack.
it's the mission. Yeah, it's the mission when I know what you're talking. I know which one you're talking about. So
The one I would run around with Darth Maul and just cut people down on.
Well, I went in a kind of different direction. I went with The Great Jedi Purge. This is the song that plays when the montage of Order 66 happens. And it is I mean, like all the big brass stuff is excellent and all that, but kind of slowing it down and bringing a more somber tone as you watch the end of a great era of of peacekeeping come to an end. You see it happen in front of your eyes, and it's horrifying. As a bunch of Jedi who maybe you don't even necessarily know a lot of their names are just cut down in front of you in like cold betrayal, and it's like. I mean, it's like a worse version of something of like the Schindler's List score, but like still very fitting for like what it is that's happening on screen. It's just like the shot of Ki-Adi-Mundi turning around as he's like, guys, why are we stopping? And then he realizes what's happening, and a lot of them actually do. If you rewatch the scene, Ki-Adi-Mundi realizes what's happening. Aayla Secura, I think, like turns around. He's like, what are we doing?
Well, Aayla Secura is kind of like
she barely gets to turn around, and then she's got like 6 caps in her head.
Yeah.
And she survives. Check this. She apparently survives.
How?
I don't know.
I saw her catch
is
a
this
few.
some EU thing? Like, how do we know she survived that?
Yeah, I saw her catch like 6 or 7 in the back. I don't think she.
Because here's the thing: she is dead in the last canon movie. We hear her voice, so like, I'm just gonna assume that the 6 bullets she took to the back on Felucia is what killed her. Plo Koon, you gonna tell me Plo Koon survives? Man, literally explodes in the middle of Cato Nemoidia.
I can tell you that Ki-Adi-Mundi dies.
That's Ki-Adi-Mundi dies.
We can't
and it's
let
actually
Egghead
like
live.
It's horrifying in a sense because like it's actually like pretty brutal for all of them. Like they shoot, the Jedi go down, and then they're like they keep shooting.
Yeah,
like they keep going, and like it's actually like really brutal. And so instead of playing like this super dark, menacing tone, they've actually played like a somber like farewell to all of these Jedi. And then the shot cuts back to Yoda, who's like in like enormous amounts of pain as like a cosmically empathetic, like a world, like a universal creature of empathy, like feels the deaths of hundreds of people, thousands of people that he probably knows by name.
Yeah.
It's like horrifying to think about, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely one of the most powerful moments ever put to screen in like Star Wars.
Yeah, and it has been enhanced as well. Like the Order 66 has been enhanced to like when you are watching that movie now, if you know what is happening around, because in the Clone Wars season 7 there is an Order 66 scene.
They do it side by side. You can line them up.
Yeah, exactly. There is an Order 66 scene in Fallen Order, the video game, which is also like fucking, because you see little guys, if you haven't played Fallen Order, turn this down for like the next 3 minutes. You actually see little Cal talking to like and high-fiving clone troopers that morning, and then that afternoon he has to like kill the clone trooper he high-fives, and that's brutal. Then you have another scene, I think it's in Star Wars Rebels, and I'm pretty sure we are going to see more version of Order 66.
Oh, forever, because it's the most powerful thing you've ever seen. The Jedi Purge. It's one of those powerful things you've seen, and every time they bring it back, like you were saying, they have it on and basically everything now. The thing that I'm worried about with whenever they bring it back is like the more and more people we're seeing actually survive it, and you're just like, then how important will it be? But I'll say the music in that moment is brilliant, unmatched stuff, especially when Keanu Mundi's face when it's just
All right, that's
like a lot of deleted scenes of more Jedi deaths that they didn't put in. So
yeah.
It's a long song. Could have put them in. That's enough from the John Williams corner. Don't worry, we'll be back. And I guess we should probably get into our next segment, the one that I almost always forget, but I didn't this time, so you should be proud of me. We're going to go to the best battles. A lot to choose from in Sith. Code, do you have any favorites?
I mean, I think it's the greatest lightsaber fight in the entire saga, which is Obi-Wan versus Anakin on Mustafar. Like, I think that's just the best fight in all of Star Wars. And like you can even lump in Palpatine Yoda as part of it since they happen at the same time. But I think both are like complementary battles. But Anakin and Obi-Wan is just like, even if you don't like those movies, you can't deny the power of watching those two fight for the first time. Especially with where it goes. Where if you like A Love, A New Hope and then you see them fight, you're like, oh man, all right, you know what? Good job, movie. And like I think that comes from the music, that comes from honestly the insane choreography they have, that comes from putting it on like a volcanic lava planet that like they just nailed every cool thing you can do with that fight, where it's just like we're gonna have them flipping on this floating platform in a river of lava, and we're gonna have them literally just swing their lightsabers around in a circle for like 30 seconds because they're trying to find the right advantage on actually being able to attack because they know each other so well that they have to think 12 moves ahead in order to make one move ahead. And I think that that's really cool. There's a lot to love about that fight, and even on the Yoda Palpatine half, it's just really cool to see, like, technically speaking, the two figureheads of the two sides fight, and the two very old, very powerful forces in the galaxy fight, and to see the Sith win it is kind of like, oh man, fuck off, Yoda, you suck. You little green bastard, you're terrible. What did Yoda ever really do except for get his ass kicked by a crusty old Sheev?
This show is surprisingly anti-Yoda. Like,
I'm with you. I'm anti-Yoda as well. Fucker shows up again in The Last Jedi. I'm like, what are you good for? You're a little puppet that's laughing at Luke's pain. Leave.
This is a positive show, guys.
You're right.
This is a positive show.
Well, I'm positively sure Yoda's a shitbag.
It had to be Koho, the one to make the negative comment.
That is why I brought him, honestly.
All right.
I broke it.
Alex, why don't you talk about this battle? And
it's perfect. It's 100% the best battle. Like, it's... I mean, we've talked a lot about like the stylistic differences between the battles in the prequels, the lightsaber battles in the prequels.
What are you talking about? We haven't talked about the...
Well, we will talk about it at some point. Totally not out of order based on how long my hair is. We will talk about the stylistic differences between the battles, lightsaber battles in the prequels and the original trilogy. This, I think, is like the perfect blend of it, where in real time, it's like an absurdly crazy, fast-paced battle, uh, but it's like an even draw, like
Mhm.
the whole time. And actually, the battle would have ended at a draw, like that. Like no one was going to get an advantage. Vader probably eventually was going to hunt Obi-Wan down and kill him, but Obi-Wan was like, I can't do this. I can get to the higher ground and get out of this alive, but that's the best I got. I gave it my best shot. I can't kill him. And then he says, "All right." Obi-Wan literally says, "Don't do it, man. Please
Don't
don't.
try it.
Please don't."
The thing that I love about that though is the absolute blend of desperation of just don't do it and almost smarmy older brother of don't do it, dude. You're about to get your ass kicked. Like it's the mix of the two, and only Ewan McGregor can pull off both sides of that and make it super genuine. Just don't try it.
Don't try. and it ends up going very poorly.
That's an understatement.
Very poorly. I mean, I've never been lit on fire, but I imagine it probably sucks.
Probably.
Yeah, it's perfect. And then I guess if we had to talk about Yoda versus Yoda versus Palpatine, I guess the funniest thing is that Yoda literally is too old to do anything.
Yeah.
Like
she's technically younger and like technically kicks his ass. Like
yeah,
does like full on. It's like whipping Senate seats in the Force, and Yoda like just has the most ear piercing, disgusting sound effect in all Star Wars when he scratches the scratch. I hate it. It's like nails on a chalkboard so much, but I also love it because it's funny. I don't know. I hate it and I love it so much with just
like Yoda gives him like his best shot, but like almost immediately and at no point in time does he ever get an upper hand, and he's too old. And like for this entire trilogy, Yoda sat like 10 feet away from Palpatine in like most of the scenes that they shared together. Like this happened on your watch, my guy. And now it's too late, and you can't really do anything about it. I love that. I love it.
And he says it. I think he says it in the end. He says, "Failed, I have," and I don't think he's only talking about the battle.
Yeah,
because he knows that he has fucked up.
Frank Oz is also talking about the Muppets in that scene. He fucked up.
I mean, he and the rest of the Jedi Order kind of fucked up, like huge, especially on Anakin. But I'm not going to talk about this battle at all because I really like the other one. I think now I'm going to like talk about a little. I'm going to go nerdy. When you're watching the fight, you can clearly see the established lightsaber styles for both of them, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is using Soresu, which is I think form 5. I think it's for 5.
David, if you mess this up, my guy.
Yeah, I should have.
My guy counter has reached 2. You get 3 as per Roberto Kersey rule.
And I don't remember which one is Anakin using it. I think Anakin uses like a mix of form 1, that's Sicho, that's the basic attacking one, and I think he uses form 3, that's Tiemso, the same one that Luke uses, but I'm not sure about that. I don't remember which one Anakin uses. I think it's form 1. I know he uses form 1, but I don't remember. But it's the offensive one. And Obi-Wan doesn't really attack much in that fight. Even though he's trying to kill Anakin, most of Obi-Wan's moves are counterattacks. If you really look at the fight.
True.
So I'm going to go, because you guys already said most of what I wanted to say about the fight, the emotional baggage of two brothers and fighting each other, and they refer to each other as brothers, but Obi-Wan raised Anakin from very young age, and that has to be heartbreaking. And the fact that he made the choice of, okay, I'm gonna try and kill him, yeah, it's just one of the most emotional scenes in all of Star Wars, and I really put this battle and the last battle between Luke and Vader up there when it comes to emotion.
Yeah.
And if you know me, that's saying a lot. So, yeah, yeah, it's just awesome.
Also, a huge shout out to the actual like Battle of Coruscant, which is like the most like insane way to open a movie ever.
Yeah, that was mine. So we'll
fair.
talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Alex?
I mean,
Yeah, well,
it's tough. I guess I've always been very amused at the fight between Mace Windu and Palpatine. Like
I like that fight a lot, actually.
yeah, it's not like a terribly long sequence. It's actually like really funny.
It's because at that point you have to remember they're both like 60-year-old men fighting.
Yeah. Well, but only because it's actually fairly symbolic of what the dynamic has been between the Jedi and the Sith. This entire trilogy. Palpatine's at work. He is effectively in charge of running the galaxy now.
Yeah.
He's chilling. Income.
One would say like a villain.
Like a villain. Some might say, if you dare. In come like several Jedi. They vastly outnumber him, and then most of them are killed right away.
Like, one would say all of them are killed essentially right away.
And then it's just the oldest one standing, I think. They have.
I don't know, Kit Fisto looks really good for 5,000.
Is Kit Fisto 5,000?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know.
Those me making shit up.
Yeah, Kit Fisto survives a move, I think, and then dies.
He blocks like twice. Shows you that he is for certain the second best Jedi in that movie.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, the other two can't even get their lightsabers up for a counter. They're just dead.
Yeah. And then like the whole battle takes out. I think the Revenge of the Sith novelization version of it is actually like really interesting because when Anakin comes in, he describes it as like he saw some of the moves and he's like, I don't even know what happened. Like it was too fast. I don't know. Like what I was like he doesn't know what he was looking at. And then the way for it to end as like Anakin being the thing that finally kind of like ends the stalemate of it is like perf. Much respect, do love.
Yeah, because Mace Windu defeated Palpatine.
Yeah, and a 1-for-1.
That's like,
which I think should officially put once and for all that he is probably the most powerful Jedi in the whole series. Like Mace should have been and should be touted. He's the only one with a purple lightsaber, so like he balances light and dark. Like he is the most powerful Jedi in that council. He's the only one to beat Palpatine. Yoda couldn't do that.
He is the most talented swordsman in the council because he's the only one to have mastered every single one.
Doesn't he like fight with a form that is completely made up and only made for him?
Yep. Yeah. It's the only form that has this motion. And
the only one where he stands there, arms out, like, come at me, bro, while he's got the lightsaber like this at his chest. He's like, let's go.
He literally does this in the fight. So it's like, okay, that's cool. But also, there is a fun fact about the Jedi killings. It has been established in canon that the gel that Palpatine does when he's spinning is like a dark side ability that stuns people that are weaker than him, which is stupid, but let's throw it out there. Yes, that's the reason why.
That's why Agent Kolar, it's his own scream. His though is in absolute agony that he didn't even get a shot off before old Dickie Daddy Sheep just impales with his blade. Just does a full-on donut roll through the air. He just I love it so much. He just because they just gets hit, he just I fucking love it.
I'm better than this. Dies.
He's looking the other way. He's like, oh shit.
He's like, oh shit! I had some shit in my eye. Sorry. Next thing I know, there's this flying donut man with a red lightsaber.
Oh.
The Chancellor just came at me some jiu-jitsu with a lightsaber. Downward dog, motherfucker.
You don't have to go.
This is a preview, slightly of what picture this is recap of weeks is gonna be like tomorrow. That's why Spencer's like, let's keep it to an hour and a half. No, it's
gonna be 2 hours of nonsense every week.
Alright.
Oh my god.
So I decided to choose the Battle of Coruscant.
Good choice.
Which in my opinion is the third best space battle in all Star Wars. But I think it's the most battle of all of the space battles in Coruscant, because you can tell that there are things happening around you that you are not seeing, that you want to see because they seem to be cool. Which the original trilogy battles are more minimalistic because the technology wasn't there, and especially because it is happening in the near the atmosphere. Ships are falling down to the planet, and that is so dope. I really love that. I really love that the danger for the people on the planet seems real, and I think it really helps you realize what a war in space means, at least in Star Wars standards, with explosions everywhere and like the little person that appears when one of the ships explodes, the little clone. I think it is the most battle-like of the space battles in Star Wars. And Anakin and Obi-Wan's banter is great, and when we focus on them, you know that there are things happening around. In fact, the battle is won without, like, off screen.
Well, we're also coming into the fight in like the last half of this fight. Like,
yeah.
There was a whole fucking fight on the planet that we didn't see, that Obi-Wan and Anakin just weren't there for. And like that's what I love like about the non-canon Clone Wars show, is the finale of that show is that fight. So you literally see Grievous and his men kidnap Palpatine and kill Shaak Ti and like do all of it. But like, let's just like for 5 seconds say Shaak Ti's died 6 times in canon. 6 different canon deaths. She's got 3 different deaths in the same movie, and like none of them made it to the film. So like, that's my personal favorite Shaak Ti death. Comment yours below. Which Shaak Ti death is your favorite? Is it the one where she gets stabbed in the back of the hallway in a ray shield, or is it the one where she's effectively infected with Grievous cords on the planet Coruscant? Pretty cool shit. But yeah, of course, the Battle of Coruscant is like we're seeing the last bit of it, and the last bit of it is fucking dope. But I highly recommend, if anyone hasn't seen the original 2D anime Gennady Tartakovsky Clone Wars show, it's good. There's a lot of great animated action sequences, but the like 7-part finale that is the Battle of Coruscant is like great shit. The Anakin Obi-Wan subplot is dumb as fuck, but the entire rest of it is dope as shit.
Mace Windu's rampage through like the droid army,
straight beating the shit out
with like and the best part is he loses his lightsaber either in the beginning or in the middle of it, so he just starts like crushing and punching, just like a madman.
Crush droids and then straight beats the shit out of a super battle droid with his bare hands. It's so sick. And you get to see his Jedi fighter. It's all purple.
Actually, I think the clones are the best. Like the clone bits are the best parts of that series. Sure. Which, I think
When
it's
they
a
fight the Jelly Man is really good. I call him Jelly because I have no other basis of what he is, but it is like a really great. And Anakin fights Asajj Ventress. That's her
Oh, yeah.
appearance in canon.
Yeah.
Not canon anymore, but still.
I still kind of consider it.
I mean, the last shot of Clone Wars is the first shot of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
It's just a reverse. They're pulling out of the space fight in animation, and then we open into the space fight level.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Mhm.
All right. Now we move to the rest, which is basically where each of us says one positive thing about the movie and we talk. So, Koho, do you have any particular thing you like to talk about in the movie?
So, the thing that I love, I do genuinely think this is a great movie, and I love it. But my favorite thing about this movie is how big of a meme it's become. Because it makes my experience of watching the movie even better. Because I laugh at all the things that are not necessarily meant to be funny, but the internet has corrupted into being funny.
Just say it. Just say the line. I'm all waiting for.
Just all of it to the hello there, General Kenobi, and all that shit. It's so good. I love all of the memes that have come out of it. But my favorite part of it that's also like super unintentionally funny. Like this movie's super unintentionally funny, but there's moments of it that just make me smile and laugh. Because even though this is like a really good moment for real, it's also just the line delivery. When Obi-Wan gets to Utapau, talks to the guy, and the guy comes up to him and goes, 10th level, thousands of battle droids. And just, he is here. And he just does the delivery through basically gritted, sharpened teeth. Is brilliant. I love it so much. Thousands of battle droids. I could quote this movie front. This is one of like 10 movies I could quote every line front to back and not miss a line. And like I love a lot of the scenes that are like not supposed to be funny, but they are funny. Just the negotiator. Grievous, you're shorter than I expected. It's so good. It's so good. I love everything about it. I mean, people will use this one as a negative, but I love it every time. Where it's activate ray shields and fucking ray shields.
How did this happen? We're smarter
than this. It's so good. It's so good because for Obi-Wan, he's absolutely right. He just woke up from getting his ass kicked by Saruman in a throne room. Wakes up with a giant fucking thing on him, hanging upside down in an elevator. He's like, whoa! And then just like, next thing he knows, they're running down a hallway. Ray shields capture them. He looks at Anakin, he's like, you dumb motherfucker. You got us in this situation because I couldn't fight Dooku. Dooku has my number like I gave it to someone on Tinder. Like, it's just, I can't shake him. Beats me every time, and then I wake up and we're in a fucking dumbass hallway because of you. I love Obi-Wan's general, like it's mostly in the last movie, but then it's through like the first third of this one, where he's just generally sick of Anakin shit. Like, it's my favorite thing because we all are about Hayden Christensen at this point as well. But like Hayden Christensen is genuinely good in this movie. I'll stand by it. I think he's genuinely good in this movie. He plays the part he's supposed to really well. But that's my favorite thing about this movie is just how not necessarily intentionally funny it is. And that comes from the internet and memes, but it also just comes from like some of the things that people like decisions they make. They're not bad decisions. I'm not laughing because the movie's bad. I'm laughing because I have a sick sense of humor and the dumbest shit will set me off. The dumbest spitting of a line delivery will make me laugh. I think this movie's brilliant. It's one of the most hilarious, unrelenting, unintentional comedies ever made.
I think the decision of making the droids sentiently talk is also great for humor.
Oh yeah.
Like run. That scene, like when one droid pushes the other, like run. That's so great. And when they are talking to R2,
Yeah.
and the super battle droid kicks him down, that you just have seen R2 kick the shit out of 2 super battle droids,
Yeah.
and then in the next scene you're like, okay, maybe he can do something, and then he kicked out. Okay, so he couldn't. I agree with I think the dynamic between Anakin and Obi-Wan, especially during that rescue scene, is some of the funniest scenes and funniest dialogue in all Star Wars.
Did I say anything? He's trying. Did I say anything? It's just like that what makes me laugh every time.
And that whole elevator sequence is pure gold. It's pure gold, and I really
the
agree
shields
with
are
you.
still up.
I think honestly, and that's actually the thing that like I would never joke around that much with my dad, but like I would definitely be like, "Why are you doing this to me with my brother?" like
Yeah.
I would totally 100% be like, "Hey, why are we being so dumb right now? Like, what is this?" I thought you were gonna go with like a like the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Oh, iconic. Here's the thing. That is the most iconic unintentional piece of comedy ever made. Where that's not even a funny scene. There's nothing funny about that scene. It's actually a really like sincerely cool moment in this movie.
Yeah.
But nothing makes me laugh harder than when in everyday conversation someone walks up to me and says, Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? It's not the story the Jedi would have told you.
That have you? So I have mentioned the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise in my Tinder profile. Just so
I forgot about that.
just so people know what they are getting into if they start talking to me. I just have that line. If you know, you know. Just
Nut from a Jedi is the perfect button. Which can we also talk about? This is like an actual good thing. Is Ian McDiarmid's best performance of the entire saga of this movie.
100%.
Where this whole movie lives and dies on Ian McDiarmid's performance. And I think he kills it. Where like when he is Palpatine, he is Palpatine. He is I am politician Palpatine that speak like this. And then the moment he becomes a Sith, his voice turns into the one you recognize where it's just the no, you will die. And it's so good. It's genuinely terrifying. John just the you from this day forth, you shall be known as Darth Vader.
Yeah, like the weird voice modulation that he was either doing or like
in that
or they put
specific
on it
moment,
later.
guarantee you that was like sound effects.
Yeah,
it's
you will
supposed to
be
be
known as Vader.
it's supposed to be that his vocal cords burned and that his throat is adjusting to the new voice.
Oh, okay.
That's what I always assumed. But like
that's what's supposed to be. It's kind of I think it's confirmed.
But he's just like I think he's like genuinely terrific. And like that Darth Plagueis monologue, because like dialogue for George Lucas is like is it comes as naturally as breathing for like a fish. Like it's like just not something he can do very well. But that Darth Plagueis monologue, like Ian McDiarmid just takes the ball and runs and does a great job with it. I love Ian McDiarmid.
I have said it many times. There are 2 characters that got enhanced by the prequels the most. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Palpatine.
True.
And I think Palpatine is the one that got even more enhanced than Obi-Wan. Because Obi-Wan, we already knew about Obi-Wan. And we already thought Obi-Wan was really cool in the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But after seeing what Palpatine did in the prequels, and especially in this movie, I think I will talk about this in more detail when we get to my favorite movie. But after this movie, especially, I think the whole throne room scene in Return of the Jedi is just because the menace of the Emperor gets a lot bigger when you know what he's capable of.
And I stand by, if you've never watched these in machete order, do it. It is honestly my favorite way of watching Star Wars ever. Because to jump from Empire and then go do Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and then come back for Jedi after seeing Revenge of the Sith, is like one of the most enhancing. It makes your respect for the prequels go way, way, way up when you actually see it immediately play into the finale of the framework of the original trilogy, and fit like a glove. It's like kind of insane, especially for Palpatine. And then he goes on to be the most ruined character by the sequel trilogy, but I'm not here.
We are not. We already
Dead
talked.
speak.
We already talked with Tim Brokaw about this, so let's leave that episode right there. It's positive. It was positive, so let's leave it.
That's insane. All right. wild shit.
Alex, do you have anything?
Actually, we kind of already touched on it, but I do want to highlight Hayden Christensen is good. Like, actually, like I we talked about it a bit when we talked about, when we talked about, there's like a very specific. Hayden Christensen, not like a great talker necessarily, but when just like giving like a purely physical performance, like the direction of stand there and look scary, or stand there and look conflicted, stand there and be this. It's actually like pretty good. Like it's actually fantastic. Especially the scene where him and Padme are like looking over, like, and you feel the weight of the distance. They're both struggling with the choices that they have made and are currently about making or about to make. Like it's you feel it, and as much as the shot does linger on Natalie Portman, it actually like stays for a really long time on Hayden Christensen, as his face is just like drenched in like ugly in like hideous tears. If it were like not a movie, he'd have like a snot bubble. Like it's like brutal, actually. Kind of.
He's like I'll stand by this. Hayden Christensen got so much shit for what he did in Clones and Sith, but like he's just playing the part he was given to perfection. Like he's so good at that part that you hate him, which is what you're supposed to feel. Like you're supposed to hate this whiny shit because Obi-Wan hates this whiny shit, but you also totally love him for like, and you totally get that. Like you totally have moments where you're like, what a genuinely like, I want this dude to succeed because he deserves it. Dude's gone through a lot.
Dorky teenager who has met like 5 women his whole life.
Has met exactly 2 women. One is dead and one has his children in him.
Yeah. He's doing his best.
He's got a 100% success rate with women.
Like he's yeah.
Speaking of, I think Hayden Christensen's performance gains from not having to like fall in love with Padme in this movie. The fact that they are already in a relationship and that they are allowed to like be together and happy, I think it actually gains a lot.
That's the thing that I will say about Clones that doesn't necessarily like super work is like him trying to be in this like this relationship's already not written the best, and he's doing his best with it, but he's just not good at that part. And so in this one, not having to be like, oh, I'm so in love with you, to being, I love you so much that I don't want you to die. And like I think that pivot is like really strong. It's not necessarily strong for Natalie Portman, but it's really strong for Hayden Christensen. But I think Natalie Portman is actually quite good.
I think for a better scene,
You're Breaking My Heart is like actively a really good monologue. As much as I have laughed at it for the memes, is like actually a really well delivered monologue.
I was watching. What was I watching the other day? A doctor show. I don't remember which one. And apparently, you can actually die from a broken heart.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So.
Humans are like birds. If you take away their person, they get really sad, and they.
I mean, that's why like I don't really like the people who are like, oh my god, she dies from a broken heart. How terrible and dumb. It's like that's real. That's a real thing. Hopefully, you never have to experience it, but that's a thing. But
it's not phrased the best. like lose the will to live is not the best way to say it.
Yes, but
But
George
yeah,
Lucas as a dialogue writer has never been like the strongest. So
But actually, there.
he'll always find the like 8th grade reading level way of saying something.
I think we've talked about George Lucas as like a more like he's more interested in the way that like technique works.
Yes.
And if he accidentally makes a good scene, then like great. But did he get the explosion that he wanted? Because that's really what it was all about.
He is like heralded, like the fact that this guy ran with like Scorsese, Spielberg, and Coppola tells you that as a director, this guy is like super well respected. Like he is like a very great visual storyteller.
If George Lucas,
if he didn't write his own
made a
movies and just took story credits, he'd probably be great.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm going to say George Lucas is one of the best storytellers of the generation because
I haven't seen American Graffiti, but I assume
he wrote my favorite story.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's like
take that, J.K. Rowling. What do you got?
It's like that. You light that gillyweed up, you bitch. A lot more of that. That's not good, bro. I'll stop there. David.
Yeah. I was going to say something, but I lost it. Yeah, okay. Obi-Wan versus Grievous. I really like. There are a lot of great moments in that fight. The fact that in lightsaber combat, Obi-Wan owns Grievous. Like in 5 minutes, Grievous has lost two, it's not members, 2 limbs. And he has to run away. And then we see Obi-Wan be kind of dumb, because you cannot punch a metal robot. That's unless you are apparently Mace Windu in the animated series. I don't know, I just think that fight is the perfect combination of comedy and drama because it's a very high stakes battle. In theory, it's supposed to be the ending of the war. If Obi-Wan wins, the war ends, and it does end when Obi-Wan kills Grievous. So I don't know, I think the choice of making it kind of comedic is great because at that point you are not invested in that fight that much because you are more invested in what's happening in Coruscant, and I think the movie knows that, and it gives you a nice comedic relief. So I think it's a great choice.
It's also like in the middle, and there's no stakes. Like there's no way that Obi-Wan dies in the middle of this battle. 100%.
Welcome to the problem with prequels inherently is knowing who's gonna live and die. But like, I think that's also the thing with this movie is not necessarily who lives and who dies. It's this is the last piece, or what we thought, the last piece of the puzzle we need to get back to the first movie. So we're seeing where everyone is and how they get there. And I think that's the real draw of the movie through and through. So all these characters that we met and subconsciously, a lot of these people are not making it out of this movie. Like Padme cannot make it out of this movie. Mace cannot make it out of this movie. The only people that are making it are like Obi-Wan, Yoda, Palpatine, and Anakin. And I guess the droids. And I guess Chewbacca, but Chewbacca's barely in this movie. Briefly at least, who's making it, and the rest are all probably going to die. But that doesn't change in any way the emotional power of losing people, the investment you have in the people that are going to make it. And like that's why I think every battle in this, even though I know Obi-Wan's not going to die in this fight with Grievous, but like Grievous is probably fucking toast, and I'm ready to watch the shit out of that. Grievous is also like the coolest character introduced in this movie, and that's my only thing is like I wish he was in the other ones. Like I wish this guy was in more than just this movie, which is why I love like the Clone Wars series and stuff like that, where it's like I could see more of Grievous and more of Dooku and more of
Yep.
Anakin and Obi-Wan and Plo Koon and everyone. So.
There's actually like I've never noticed it until very recently. Someone pointed this out to me. Right before Grievous is about to like pull out all the lightsabers, in the background you see one of the droids be like, "Hey, watch this, bro," and he motions to like one of the other droids to be like,
That's
"Hey, dude,
awesome.
watch this." So, you know, on your next rewatch, look at the background. You've seen the scene. Look at the background. I love Grievous. I do think that like the idea of Obi-Wan and like the desperation moment kicking Grievous is
and just screaming in pain as the immediate regret of kicking a fucking robot.
Just like, ow, what? As it turns out, he's not smarter than this. This is your fault.
So
that was your fault.
Obi-Wan.
I do have another thing to say. If you, anybody,
Sure.
because I just went. So.
Oh well, I mean, my other thing that I would say is I love the choice of where each film in the trilogy decides to end in varying degrees and ways. But I think this is the best ending. Like I all genuinely really wish this is where it ended, with the Owen and Beru holding Luke and looking at the double sunset as it happens. Because every trilogy since the first one has ended with looking at the double sunset. I think this is the far superior ending of the two of looking at a double sunset. And I think it's so poetic where it's like the moment where Star Wars really begins for all of us is when Luke looks at the double sunset in the first movie, and to end it with him doing it again as a newborn baby in the arms of the people that we know are going to get fried in 20 years, protecting him. And Obi-Wan riding off on it, or standing off and then riding off on like that little dewback looking fucker. And just being like, all right, this is my life now. Is I'm watching this kid so that he can one day kill.
Tatooine now, I guess.
He can one day do the thing that I wasn't able to do. I think that ending is so. It's just like boom. It just like punches you in the feels, while also just like the score coming back and swelling you up, and it's just like, I love it. I love the ending of this movie like a lot.
Well, actually, that was what I was going to talk about. So I'm going to piggyback on that. One of the themes in Star Wars, and I will talk more about this in forward movies, is hope. And at the end of this movie, hope is lost for the galaxy. Like, the Empire has, like, you know, Yoda has lost, Obi-Wan is, the Empire is there, like the Death Star, Darth Vader.
Which is a dope shot, complete with young Tarkin.
Yep. The Jedi are dead. Padme is dead. The funeral. By the way, the funeral of Padme and Anakin's transformation in Darth Vader going back to back is also a great sequence. But since it's already an hour and we have to probably end soon, I do want to finish with, there is no secret that Luke Skywalker is my favorite character in all of fiction. And seeing his birth in this movie is one of my favorite moments in all Star Wars. And how you said that he is looking at the binary sunset as a newborn baby and literally representing the title of the next movie, which is A New Hope, that we know that maybe hopefully this little tiny baby can do something and fix this thing that is screwed up for 19 years. I think is a great concept. And this movie and this story of father, son, hope, and destiny has shaped my taste in stories for like my whole life. And I think this final shot encapsulates what I really love about storytelling and fiction really well. So yeah, if that's my final word on this movie.
I think that this movie, the reason why this sits at number one, I said it earlier. This is when I think of Star Wars, I think of Revenge of the Sith. Why I love Star Wars is completely encapsulated within this film. It has everything that I love about the original trilogies built into its DNA, with all these characters that I know and love in the darkest moment of all of their lives, how they all mess up. And yet at the end, that's what I love the most. Like you said, that this movie manages to just destroy your emotions and your hope and put us in the darkest place in the entire period of this franchise. And yet at the end, you have a lot of hope because you know what comes next in the next chapter is the beginning of one of the greatest stories and one of the greatest redemption stories in the history of cinema. And I think like that's what I love most about Revenge of the Sith is that it in a way completely elevates the material that came before it and is elevated by that material. It's like the only prequel film that I will legitimately argue is great because of how its relationship to the films that came before it, they just work so perfectly. You slot this in, like I said, between Empire and Jedi, and it feels like episode 2.5 of this trilogy, where it's of the original trilogy, where it's just like the most necessary backstory you could get. And it only helps. That's the thing I love is that it only helps this great trilogy, and is only helped by this great trilogy to see two people who love each other so much end up becoming bitter enemies, to see this couple who has been in love like fall apart and die essentially because of loving each other too much, and because of fear, and seeing how fear corrupts hope, in the biggest snafu in the history of any organization on film, and just seeing everything come crumbling down, is kind of insane. And I'm not usually the person that like really loves watching the movie where everything goes wrong, but this is the one for me where it's like all hope is lost, and then it's going to be better in the next one. So it gives me the exact same feeling that I get watching Avengers: Infinity War, where it's like everything is entirely destroyed. All these people I love lost. So many characters I like adore just died before my eyes. And even though the last words I hear, the most inspirational leader I've ever heard is, "Oh God," and we know that we've just lost, I know the next movie is going to be the most hopeful and impactful thing of my life. And I think Revenge of the Sith, in a way, I appreciate more than the ones that do give me the hope, where I see the hope play out, because I love the moment where you know that it's going to get better, but when you watch it all go to shit. And I think that's what I love most about it. I love a lot of the aspects of it, just the lightsaber fights, the music, the clones, every aspect of this movie is what was defined to me as Star Wars at the age of 5. So playing the video games and reading the books and everything I've ever consumed as Star Wars media has been directly inspired by this one film more than anything else I've ever done. So like, I know right now in the era of Star Wars we live in, it's like everything is inspired by the originals again. The sequels are like direct. We're just going to keep feeding off of what the original movies were and like building new great stories out of that. But for me, the thing that will always be Star Wars to me is the last original, like really original stories we got that inform the movies that the people love from the 60s, for the 70s and 80s. And when we thought this was the last Star Wars movie, I feel like people didn't appreciate it as much. But I think looking back on it, this feels like the last. It really does feel like the last real Star Wars movie to me. It feels like this is Lucas's last chapter. This is where Lucas wanted to leave it, and I think that is a phenomenal send off to the career of George Lucas as Revenge of the Sith, who is a director that I do really respect. So Revenge of the Sith will always be, like I said, when I think of Star Wars, I will always think of Revenge of the Sith first.
That's a fantastic monologue. Probably we'll just close with that, honestly. This might be the longest episode. I mean,
it's got me on it. That's my fault.
That's fine. We'll find a way to make like Jedi or something, like Return of the Jedi, like 8 hours long. Joe will be on it. These two,
Will
honestly,
Joe be
like,
able to sit here with you and be like, "Hey, that Rancor's left tooth in the front row was actually prosthetically created by George Lucas's third cousin."
I think we should leave it in the monologue.
Yeah, you're
Just
right.
leave it.
Thanks for that. It's been lovely to have you,
Yeah.
Coho. Check out his other show, which I believe is called Picture This.
It is
I might
Picture
be on it.
This. Picture This is the new podcast where we
I
talk
might
about
be
all
on
the
it.
best
I
picture
might be
winners.
hosting that. Oh, God.
We're gonna be talking about every best picture winner one a week till we're all 90.
So we're all dead.
Because this is we got 94 confirmed episodes to do before we have to get actually not even that. Technically it'll take us 2 years. So we will have 96 confirmed episodes to do of this show before we are caught up and done. So then we'll have to get creative and find what the show's gonna be from there. But we got 96 episodes of me maybe drunkenly recapping the plot of a Best Picture winner, and Jack and Spence and Alex and Matthew just laughing uncontrollably.
That sounds like us. I'll also be on that show from time to time, and from time to time, I mean every week. So, thank you for coming out to Open Night Trivia. Let's love Star Wars. This has been my favorite episode for my favorite movie. So from the three of us, may the Force be with you. An eighth of the time? How often do you need the Force? A sixth?